Welcome to the We Shine Well podcast, where I have real conversations with thought leaders in wellness to help you live your most vibrant, aligned, and purposeful life. I'm your host, Zoe Kelsey, founder of We Shine Well. Here, we share honest stories, gems of wisdom, and insight to spark clarity and guide your next right step, so you can shine brighter from the inside out. Now let's dive in. Today on the We Shine Well podcast, I'm joined by someone whose work brings women back into wholeness, mind, body, and soul. Ilona Varo is a licensed marriage and family therapist based in Newport Beach, known for her deeply integrative, compassionate, and body-centered approach to healing. She was born in Hungary and brings a unique perspective shaped by her background in beauty and the entertainment industry, the healing arts, and decades of supporting women through the most tender parts of their lives. Her work centers around women's issues from adolescence through adulthood, with a focus on body image, disordered eating, self-sabotage, anxiety, trauma, autoimmune conditions, and the somatic roots of emotional pain. She is trained in EMDR and somatic modalities and believes that healing begins when we reconnect with our bodies. Because as she says, it's not always logical. Sometimes it's biological. In this conversation, we dive into resilience, practical coping skills, emotional regulation, the mind-body connection, and what it truly takes to feel good in your life again. She reminds us that healing isn't a destination. It's a lifelong, compassionate journey of committing to coming home to yourself. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have Ilona on our podcast today. I'm so grateful that we've met through multiple various communities coming together and through our We Shine Well community. It's fun how the world can just become so small as well. And I would just love to kick off with, I know that your path is unique from beauty and entertainment to the world of psychotherapy. And how did your lived experience shape the work you do today? And can you tell us a bit about how you got to where you are and your why?
Yeah, definitely. So I was one of those people that wasn't really sure what I wanted to do straight out of college. I didn't even really know what I wanted to study in college, but I went down the psychology route. And then at the end of college, I was like, I don't really want to go to more school. I got very tempted by the beauty and entertainment world. I had an opportunity to work with a publicist. And so I just kind of followed that path for a little bit. And I loved it. Definitely burned me out, definitely didn't see longevity and fulfillment in that for myself long term. So I decided to go back to grad school and become a therapist working with women. And it's so full circle now. I love my path. I love my journey. I love how it makes sense. I love that I was confused when I was younger and I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was open to possibilities. And so, yeah, that's really just kind of the whole roundabout way of not really knowing what I wanted to do. I always loved beauty. I loved makeup. I loved fashion. I loved entertainment, celebrity. All of that was definitely like a shiny object for me. So it was fun to do that in my early 20s. And then I wanted a little more depth, a little more curiosity. I'm such a curious person. I'm a super empath. I'm a projector. I'm a Gemini. Like there's just so much.
Wow, we're like twins.
So that I'm very curious and very determined. I think those are two qualities of mine that I just need more, always learning, always growing, always evolving. So it makes sense now, but it was a little interesting in the beginning. I was like, I don't really know what I want to do.
Is there something that spurred that pivot for you?
I just got really burnt out in the beauty and entertainment world. I think it was not particularly healthy for me. And so it's really interesting to now be on the other side of the couch supporting women that are struggling with their own body image, self-worth, identities. It really came together and makes sense, but it just wasn't long-term fulfilling for me. I don't think I'd ever been more unhappy or unhealthy than when I was working in the beauty, fashion, entertainment world. It's really hard. There's a lot of criticism, judgment, comparison, not feeling enough. And I personally, in my early 20s, wasn't doing my own work, my own mental health, my own processing. I think going back into it now, I would do it differently for sure. And there is a way to have that level of depth and fulfillment in that career. But at the time, I was just very lost, and being in constant environments where it's just so much focus on beauty, so much focus on image and up leveling and wanting more and being enough and having enough. I just don't think my ego handled it in its early 20s.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned too, you work with women navigating body dysmorphia, eating disorders, as well as autoimmune conditions. Do
Yeah.
you have lived experience there that's led you to work with this population?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I think I am really good at what I do, is because I've lived it, I've embodied it. Autoimmune conditions, body image, eating disorders, all of that are such embodied experiences. It's not just our thoughts, it's not just how we think, but it's this full body experience. There's a big link between trauma and unprocessed emotions linking up with autoimmune conditions, particularly in women. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's all, came together as a perfect storm in my brain and body and existence. But I'm also really grateful for it because it opened up this path of being able to heal myself, work on myself, and then really be able to relate to other women that are going through the same thing from a place of lived experience, not just having read about it in a textbook, but really knowing, what does that feel like in the body? What
Yeah.
images go through someone's mind? What thoughts go through someone's mind? What emotions are
Mhm.
coursing through someone's body when they're dealing with these things? So it's a very personal mission for sure.
Yeah. And touching specifically on autoimmunity too, how do you see the emotional and physical symptoms intersecting in those journeys too?
Well, there's more and more research coming out about how repressed emotion shows up as illness in the body. And women are historically the caretakers and the ones that self sacrifice. Their needs kind of go on the back burner because they're caring for their partners, their children, their families. And so it is just such a common experience in women because women tend to suppress and just
Mhm.
put on this face of like, I'm fine, everything's fine, I can handle it all, I can do it all, I can look good doing it. There's just it's
Mhm.
such a drive of being able to handle it all, and we're out of touch with our own bodies, or we tolerate certain things because we think we have to. We don't listen to the tiny little whispers of our body until they're loud screams. So that's how it all kind of interplays, is that everything, the foundation of all illness essentially is safety. So
Mm.
and physical safety. How safe do we feel in our bodies? And not even necessarily from a place of like, am I going to be attacked? But just, can I fully be in this moment? Can I breathe deeply? Can I fully be myself? Can I fully express myself? Am I hypervigilant around what is someone going to think of me? Or will they reject me? There's so many layers to it, but that's just kind of like the light overview of how those things play together.
It's like we hold it all together and there's the facade on the outside until there isn't necessarily in a way. And it's interesting too because even like related to like body image and eating disorders, it's like we want to, in a way, not be seen, but be so seen at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. There's this protective element, whether we're trying to pad ourselves with safety and security or shrink ourselves for acceptance or safety or security. Both sides of, the eating disorder spectrum really are serving the same purpose. It's ultimately safety and acceptance and protection.
So, how do we take steps to regain that trust with our bodies and for our bodies and minds to truly feel that safety?
There's such a complicated answer to that, but I think the most simple one is creating stillness and silence. I think
Hmm.
that trying to limit the noise around pressure, expectation, shoulds, who you need to be, comparison, social media, just really trying
Mhm.
to come back to yourself and be with yourself. It's a lot easier when you limit the noise or the external stimulation that we just have on a day-to-day basis. And some we have control over and some we don't. But I think that's typically a good place to start.
How did you go from this place of that pseudo safety that you kind of created to creating that true sense of safety in your mind and body?
I think there's ultimately a breaking point. Everything that we do and use to cope works until it doesn't. And I think
Mhm.
that's the hardest part is we see a coping mechanism work for someone, so we try it out, but we don't really see the full effects on that person. And
Mhm.
so we might think that we're alone in our struggle, using food as coping mechanism, whether we're restricting or binging, either one, you know, we it works until it doesn't. And then there's always this
Mhm.
breaking point of hopelessness, helplessness, and feeling bad enough to be willing to do something different. And
Mhm.
sometimes it takes an external force, someone to point out, this isn't living what you're doing, how you're coping, it's not actually getting you what you want and the life you want. Sometimes we need someone to point that out so that we can start to see it for ourselves. And other times we just get to that point of, I'm fed up, I've had enough, and I'm so
Mhm.
desperate, I'm willing to try something new. And I think that the way out really has to come through connection with a safe person. Safety
Mhm.
is really difficult to achieve just within yourself. So this is where a therapist would come in and really therapy for me is all about helping women come back to themselves. So it's not
Mhm.
me imposing something on them. It's me creating safety so that they can really express. They can be who they were meant to be all along. They can feel safe enough to be themselves. It's coming back to yourself. And so
Mhm.
I think safety really comes through relationships. A lot of our disordered eating and unhealthy coping and mental disorders, they're very isolating. And so even just that first step of reaching out for support and finding a safe person can be really challenging, but we're not meant to do it alone. We are meant to live and exist and experience life in relationship to other people. We don't have a strong relationship with ourselves, we cannot have healthy connections to other.
Mhm. Well, even like personally, I grew up having anorexia, being in and out of treatment too, and it's like I didn't truly recover until I was choosing myself because there were times of going in and out for like trying to people please other people of like
Mhm.
I'm better so that I can go to college and like be safe in that too.
Yeah,
But it's like what you're saying is so powerful because when people are in it, and even from my experience, I didn't realize how much it affected everyone else in my life
yeah,
and like family and friends when all I thought what it was that it was like this is my little secret where I have control,
yeah.
but it's not necessarily a secret. So how do you so when you work with clients, you create space for them to be supported? Do you work with or support their loved ones in a way to have that support?
Well, depending on the severity of someone's eating disorder, for example, it absolutely is recommended that their partners, siblings, family members are also getting support because especially for, anorexia, bulimia, it's so hard to understand from an outside perspective. People
Mhm.
oversimplify it. Oh, just eat something or oh, just stop eating. It's
Mhm.
so not about the food. And that is very difficult for someone to understand if they're not in that experience because that's all they see is the manipulation of food. And what they're not seeing is the level of physical discomfort and emotional manipulation that the individual is trying to do with the food to soothe that emotion. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think that people need to find their own support because it takes a lot. And especially food is such a complicated thing. We're in the holiday season
Mhm.
right now, and everything is about food and celebration and family. And all of those things are incredibly triggering for people. So just really having compassion for someone else's journey, not trying to oversimplify it and being willing to see it from their perspective, even if you don't understand it, validating that someone is struggling, even if you don't agree or don't understand it, just
Mhm.
validating that I see that you're having a hard time can be a great starting point.
Yeah, that's a great tactical tip. And for people who haven't experienced it themselves, they have friends or loved ones, how do you explain what somebody is going through when they are experiencing anorexia or bulimia to be able to best support them?
It's emotional distress that an individual hasn't found other outlets for or other ways to cope, whether it's a subconscious thing too, maybe the individual themselves doesn't fully understand where this need for control is coming from, or this need for safety or protection or defensiveness. Trauma is deeply rooted in the body, and sometimes we don't even have words for it. And that's where the somatic modalities can be really powerful, the EMDR. There's incredible training that I'm a part of called Rapid Rewire Method, which is all about embodiment and identity and just altered states, even just really
Mhm.
on deeper, deeper levels. So, um, just really understanding that it's rooted in emotional distress and not having a way to properly express that and process that. So the individual is just struggling and trying to cope with the discomfort that they're feeling and that they can't express, don't fully understand themselves, or they're rejecting or denying, like, no, that's not part of me. No, like we call it like lies and secrets and manipulation, right? Like those are at
Mhm.
the bottom of eating disorders in particular, and they
Mhm.
don't come from a bad or malicious place. Someone with an eating disorder is not a bad person, but we lie, we have secrets, and we manipulate for the sake of like feeling like we're in control or that we have
Mhm.
some sort of power over what's happening in our lives because maybe there's other things that we feel very powerless around.
And going back to the somatic modalities as well, how do you use those in your practice to even release that grip of control a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it requires a deep sense of safety with the practitioner because the practitioner is going to ask you to do some things that might seem weird. You know,
Mhm.
getting into your body might involve humming or stretching or you know playing around with your posture so that you feel and you're like in a different position than you might naturally be, and that might feel really uncomfortable. Sometimes my entire practice is virtual, so sometimes I'll even ask clients like, I want you to just like stand up, walk around the room, and sit down in a different position that you were sitting in. And even asking someone something as seemingly simple as that can trigger so much. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of subtleties in somatic work, and a lot of times people feel silly or stupid or like they're doing it wrong, but it's so powerful. The whole point of it is to evoke sensations in the body and emotions that we try so hard all day to kind of like keep down. You know,
Mhm.
as human beings, we're always managing our impression and our image. How do I look? What do other people think of me? And so that's like what we're trying to get under the layers of, okay, this is how I'm presenting, but it's the iceberg metaphor. We're only seeing
Mhm.
iceberg. There's so much underneath it. And that's what somatic work does, is it helps get into body sensations, emotions, dissecting the thoughts that come up, being able to pull them apart one by one, looking at the images that come up in someone's mind. It's typically those four elements and being able to track like moment to moment what's happening, what just happened, where to
Mhm.
bring up for you. It's a it's kind of like a dance, you know. So the
Mhm.
is watching you and just like, okay, stop there for a second. What are you noticing? Okay, now keep going. Okay, now stop there. I love
Mhm.
so fun, but it can feel a little weird for clients at first. But you can't outthink your way from an emotional problem. You have
Mhm.
your way out of it, quote unquote. So a lot of
Mhm.
people, especially nowadays, we like to think and intellectualize and overthink, and that's only going to get you so far. You have to be able to be willing to drop into the body.
And we're so much in our mind so much of the time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, myself included at times, it's like we don't realize how disconnected we are from our bodies until we actually tune in to them.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And there's that mind body connection as well. And personally, I didn't tap into more of somatics until even like a few years ago through like breath work.
Yeah.
Cause I was like, I can only talk so much through this. It goes back to like even the book, The Body Keeps the Score, is like we hold so much in our bodies. And I know you mentioned you're a projector too, and in human design, projectors especially, and like empaths hold so much emotions in their bodies and our bodies, that there's just like that mind body connection, but also like there can be that mind body divide as well. And you talk about it's not always logical, it's sometimes biological. And can you unpack what that means and why it's such an important reframe for healing?
Yeah. When I say it's not just logical, it's biological, I almost, I'm thinking more that it's like it's built into our biology. It's our programming, nature versus nurture. There's definitely nature elements to it, what we got handed down from our parents, what ecosystem we grew up in, what emotional environment we grew up in, what was our childhood experience like. All of that informs our entire being, our biology. And so that's why when people are just up in their heads, they're trying to be logical, rational, reasonable. They're disconnected from emotions. They're disconnected from body sensations. They're trying to make sense of something that might not make sense. And it's not meant to make sense. It's just meant to be released. And so that's oftentimes, I think, a point of struggle for some of my clients is like they want to understand everything. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm just like, are you willing to release it without knowing? Can we just like, do we have to know it? The more we're trying to dive into it, sometimes we're just digging ourselves deeper and attaching to it more and more. Can we just
Mm-hmm.
put it down without like needing to fully know and understand? I think sometimes people go off track in their healing journeys, and there's a lot of people that just loop and loop and loop with like information gathering instead of, you don't need to know all of it. Let's just start practicing some of the things to start to release. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to like fully understand something. You can attach a meaning to it, even just not knowing it, and be willing to practice and release and move forward.
Mhm. And in the looping, do you find you have clients that know exactly what they need to do, but they're not doing it?
All the time. And that is classic for all of us human beings, I think. Like we know what we need to do, but we don't know the subconscious layers of why we're holding on to it. And so that's, I think,
Mhm.
the fun of where I sit in my practice is I get to help people like look at the deeper emotions, look at the goal of that behavior. Is it actually getting you the goal that you want? It's offering perspective and awareness, because so oftentimes like we know on a surface level, but there's deeper layers of experience and emotion that we just have to kind of go through and process and then release.
It's like you're helping people look under the hood of what's actually going on and creating that safe space so they feel safe even looking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is step number one. You have to feel safe looking and
Mhm.
know that you're not being judged and that you're not alone. I've never
Mhm.
had an experience in my therapy practice. I've been in private practice over a decade, and then practicing even, before that with my mentors and things like that. And I've never met someone that had like they were the only one in the world that ever had that thought or that emotion or that behavior or that guilt or that like shared human experiences, you know? No one
Mm-hmm.
is that unique or special that they have to feel shame or hide because they think they're alone in their experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes we think about, oh, maybe I will just arrive in my healing, but healing is not necessarily that destination where we arrive to. So, what do you want people to understand about what the healing process actually looks like and how we can have grace with ourselves in it?
It is a wave. It is not a straight line or a straight path. And it might even take you backwards sometimes. I think a lot of times people give up in their therapy journey because they feel like they're either not making any progress or they feel worse, but that actually means you're on the right path.
Mm,
I think we feel worse because we're finally vulnerable enough to allow ourselves to go places that we've been trying to protect and keep hidden for so long. So that makes sense. And we feel stuck sometimes because it's our own judgment. A lot of times, all it takes is for someone to ask for feedback. And so I often give feedback to my clients and we check in with, how do you feel like your progress is moving along? And they'll be like, "Oh man, I'm so stuck," or I'm so frustrated. And then I reflect back to them, okay, let's remember where we started. And let's
mm,
like people don't acknowledge steps. They just have
mm,
this goalpost that always keeps moving that's like I'll be
mm,
happy when this or I'll be satisfied when that. And so we have to have someone reflect back to us or at least track for ourselves what actually is changing because we will not see it for ourselves. We are not in the habit of acknowledging our little wins. We only have these like big goals. And then even when we get them, we're like, okay, that's not really what I want. And now next, what's the next goal? What's the next goal? So acknowledging
mm,
yourself along the way is really important.
mm. And how do you recommend that people find a good therapist? Because sometimes you're telling somebody your entire life story, and it feels like a lot to even try to go to somebody to be able to have that support. But what do you recommend?
Interview, interview people, get on a Zoom call, get on a phone call. It's not enough to just send an email and ask some questions because it's a personal relationship. It's like dating. You want to you know, someone could be a perfectly good therapist, but they're not a good match for that particular person. So
Mm,
really is about some sort of connection and some sort of a click. It's that intangible. I can't explain to you why, but I feel like I trust you. I feel like
mm-hmm,
I feel like I can be honest with you. So
mm-hmm,
I always recommend that you would interview at least 3 people. And if someone's not willing to give you a 15-minute consult, then I think that's already a red flag, number one. And trust your gut. Listen to what your body is communicating as you're interviewing these therapists. Do you feel relaxed and open and able to speak freely, or do you feel tense and nervous and judged?
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I also want to touch on nervous system regulation because there's
Yeah.
so much out there about the nervous system these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
And we've touched on somatics and resilience, mind body connection.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your thoughts on nervous system regulation as it relates to everything we've been speaking to.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes back to the nervous system. And so I love the fact that it's becoming more and more common knowledge, even, talking about the vagus nerve and parasympathetic nervous system. I think it's becoming more terminology that is shared and used and normalized. So I think that's great. When we talk about safety, we're talking about a calm, regulated nervous system. Now, regulated doesn't necessarily mean calm, it means responsive. You're not
Mm,
hyper alert, scanning and checking and, assessing your surroundings. You're just kind of present and aware, and you can respond to whatever presents itself. So I think when people, I think on Instagram or, whatever, they're talking about regulated nervous system, I think people picture like a monk, just always zen,
mhm,
calm. And Regulated nervous system means resilient nervous system. It means
Mhm.
you can be startled, you can feel anxiety, you can feel grief, and still come back to your baseline. So it's not a static state. I think that's so frustrating for a lot of people, is like they want to get to this place, like you were saying earlier, like whether it's a goal or a state of being. I want to be happy. I want to be calm. I want to be peaceful. I want to be certain. Like, those
Mhm.
are all just fleeting moments. None of them are things that we can like grab onto. I think there's a lot of connection between mindfulness and spirituality and being connected to something bigger than ourselves, nature, even, and psychology. I think there's a lot of connection. Even when you look at the nervous system, it looks like a tree. It's like
Mhm.
branches going everywhere. It's our roots. What connects us to other people, how we experience our environment. So there's a very kind of spiritual, esoteric element to psychology. It's not just your thoughts and your emotions. It's like, who am I? My existence, my being, my connection to other people, my purpose.
Mhm.
I totally sidetrack that question, but
Wow, I love it. Yeah, it's like what you in your practice, it's not just like I'm going to a heart doctor or a foot doctor. It's like I
oh,
am coming to a therapist to have the mind body soul connection to truly come home to myself. And even as you're speaking, I'm like nervous system regulation needs a rebrand to nervous system resilience because
ah,
that's really what we're aiming for because especially like in a population with autoimmunity or eating disorders, it can be just like black and white too. Is like I either have to be a monk or I'm just going to be just like hustling all day and working to myself into the ground.
yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because absolutely black and white thinking, all or nothing, perfectionism, rigidity. It's either rigidity or chaos, right? There's never like
Mhm,
balance in
mhm,
those types of disorders. When we're in those disorders, that's where our mind likes to go. That's something I face all the time with my clients. They're like, well, just tell me what to do, tell me what to eat, tell me what to do. And I'm like, I can't, because every day
mhm,
it's going to be different. Your moods are going to influence it. Your energy level is going to influence it. The season of life you're in is going to influence it. And anyone that sells you the package, the program, the blueprint is just wanting to take your money, because it's all about you learning to be more intuitive with yourself, not someone else telling you what to do.
mhm,
If that's the relationship you have with a therapist, a dietitian, any provider, they're just telling you what to do, you're at their whim. Like, you're not fully being. You're just like, you know, yes man, taking it all in. And it might be very, very wrong for you. But sometimes people feel this sense of safety of just like, tell me what to do. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about it. And that is the biggest lie or the biggest misconception, I think, in healing. Like, no one else can tell you what to do. They can offer you tools that you will then take and practice, and you will report back on how it was for you. And then we'll assess, and then we'll go further. But there
mhm,
is no singular plan, blueprint, protocol. That's all just a gimmick. So hate to break it to you. Hate to break it to you, all you out there listening that are like, for $39.99, I'm gonna get my, nervous system regulation toolkit. It's like, okay, it works for that one person that created it, and now they're gonna make money off of you, but have to
mhm.
like explore and figure it out for yourself.
Well, and if anything, it's like those meal plans or do this and that is a permission slip in a way to not truly tune in.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it could serve a purpose in a time where there needs to be like weight gained or something like that, but see it kind of like a permission slip that is not fully trusting like your intuition.
Yeah, they're guides. Like, obviously, we need resources to be able to learn what is going to work for us, but really fight the urge to be rigid with it and to think that, like, if I just do this one thing every day, I'm going to feel great. It's going
Mhm.
to every single day. That's why we need lots of tools in our toolkit.
And how can we soften into that trust?
Trusting ourselves,
Mhm.
practice, practice. And it can be as simple as, I'm going to wear this today. and I'm going to see how I feel, and I'm going to trust that this is what's in my best interest, or I'm going to eat this for breakfast today, and I'm going to check in with myself and see, was it enough? Did I like it? Was it satisfying? It's really getting curious with yourself and asking yourself questions. It's fascinating to me how disconnected people are from themselves,
Mhm.
how little they ask questions of themselves, even as simple as like, how do I feel? What do I need?
Mhm.
What do I
Mhm.
want? Do I actually want to go to this thing? Like just
Mhm.
being able to check in with yourselves is a great, great practice.
Mhm. And it sounds like even that practice of like, how can I test and learn? I can always go back to what my old ways that might not be serving me.
Yeah. Yeah. We always have to be assessing and auditing our behaviors, our habits. It's just, we're constantly changing, constantly evolving. Our needs change, our desires change. And so don't get too fixated on one person, one place, one thing, one behavior, one coping tool, one workout routine, just try to be flexible. If there's anything, I think flexibility and health go hand in hand in the physical body and in the mind and in your emotion.
Mhm.
Rigidity is illness, flexibility is health.
Mm, that's powerful. And it goes back to like autoimmunity too, as like the root of autoimmunity and disease is dis-ease itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in terms of just, it just goes back to resilience and grace as well. So, are there practical tools you can offer to help people regulate themselves during times of overwhelm or stressful moments?
I think tuning into your breath is a really underrated skill. It's free and available to us all. So being able to just slow down, take some deep breaths. It goes back to that whole stillness and silence that I started with. We all need moments of stillness and silence in our day, and just connecting to our bodies, literally putting a hand on your chest, a hand on your belly, or the back of your neck and your forehead, just like literally holding yourself, or whatever
Mhm.
position, feels good to you. The self hug, one hand under your rib and then one on your shoulder, butterfly tapping, like getting more comfortable with connecting to our own bodies.
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but like, I don't know how many people in my world like actually put a hand on their heart, and just like had a client yesterday that broke down in tears just from me asking them to put their hand on their heart. Like that
Mm,
connection to themselves was an instant trigger of like, whoa, I don't connect to myself. I'm so out there in the world and scattered and
mhm.
going through the motions of life, but rarely do I come home and connect with myself. And so those are little things: slowing down, stillness, silence, deepening your breath, taking more intentional breaths, and putting a hand on your shoulder, your head, your chest, your belly, and just like connecting with your little moments of connection, I think are the most simplistic way to start this.
And to that point, why do you think so many people don't create that stillness? Like, is there fear of being with themselves?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
The joke's on us. Like, oh, I don't wanna be with myself. I don't wanna know what kind of thoughts are going through my mind. I wanna be distracted. I wanna numb out. I wanna doom scroll. I wanna binge Netflix. I wanna be anywhere except in my own mind and in my body. Because
Mhm.
if I am, then all of a sudden I have to have awareness, acceptance, ownership of like, maybe I'm contributing to the circumstances of my life, or oh, maybe there's some things I could do differently. Like,
Mhm.
people want to change, but people hate change.
Mhm.
So it's like there's so many paradoxes in psychology, and that's one of the big ones. Is everyone wants things to be different in their lives, and everyone is terrified of things changing. So
Mhm.
it's like, even just being with that duality. You're not with that duality if you're doom scrolling or you're distracted or numbing out. But if you
Mhm.
sit in silence, you might have that awareness of like, oh, yeah, I want to do that, but oh, it scares me. Oh, it's uncomfortable. It's always
Mhm.
discomfort. Distress tolerance is like at the root of everything. Just like safety is at the root of everything, tolerating discomfort is at the root of everything.
Mhm. Yeah, and just like in that release too, like creating safety, we're able to even identify and have that awareness of like what truly does need to be released as well. So like as you work with people who have autoimmunity too, how do you see like working with clients and having that energetic and emotional release help translate to their physical health?
It's sometimes instantaneous. Someone could be carrying pain for weeks or months and they process an emotion and all of a sudden they're like, oh, like I'm actually not even, I don't feel that pain anymore, or that fatigue that I've been experiencing. Like, I feel like it's lifted. Like sometimes it's not that instantaneous. I don't want to like offer false hope,
Yeah.
but I think it's bringing your unconscious into the conscious is so powerful. And sometimes that consciousness can help release physical pain, discomfort, suffering, or it offers such profound hope that someone is now willing to do something differently to help their physical state. So it's that making the unconscious conscious that really opens doors for profound healing.
Mm. And in that, are there like different synapses that are being rewired, or is there a neurological component to that where we are rewiring our minds and telling our cells to just fire differently?
Yeah, definitely. Neurons that fire together wire together. So if you're firing neurons of safety, peace, calm, connection, curiosity, then you're releasing, you're signaling different hormones in your body, in your biology. So
Mhm.
that's how your mind is affecting your biology is, our thoughts literally shape our bodies, right? So it's very, very connected.
Mhm. It's so wild and so powerful at
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
time is like we
Yeah.
are our own creators of our own reality.
Yeah. And it's not woo woo. This is scientifically backed. This is not,
Mhm.
we can take an MRI, scan or CT scan and see, the different chemical physiological changes in our bodies based on what we're feeling emotionally and what we're thinking cognitively.
Yeah. In terms of daily like self-care and truly nourishing and taking care of ourselves, mind, body, and soul, what does that real aligned self-care and support look like beyond that surface level wellness of that 1 hour, 2 hour morning routine or whatever you
Yeah.
may see out there?
Yeah. It can look different for everyone, but the most important thing is that it's intentional and you're present. So
Hmm.
I hear this all the time from my clients, like, I just did an hour of yoga class and all I thought about was like how much I'm so scared to go on this date tomorrow. Or I'm like, okay, so your yoga was not worthless, but I'm being totally dramatic here. But I'm like, that practice was totally worthless, right? Because the whole
Hmm.
point of it was to be connected to your breath, to your body, to the present moment. All the yoga in the world is not going to help you be resilient if your mind isn't in it. And that goes for
Hmm.
journaling, walking, meditating. Like, you really want to be as intentional as you can be about what you're doing. Otherwise, it's not worth going through the motions,
Hmm.
in my opinion,
Yeah. And it goes back to being fully present as well.
with yourself.
Hmm. As a therapist, how do you take care of yourself working with so many incredible clients and holding all of that, but also being able to release it?
My entire waking hours are infused with self care. Literally everything I do when I go on a walk with my dog, it is in silence. I'm not on my phone. I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm in the moment, present. processing maybe a difficult session. Walking and processing is a wonderful practice. So
Mhm.
just like being in the habit of moving your body, not from an exercise point of view, but just to like move emotions, stagnation, energy,
Mhm.
sensation, deep breathing all the time, really being connected to um, making sure you're comfortable in your physical environment. I journal, I do a lot of self processing, a lot of the protocols that I take my clients through, I'm running on myself. I like to wake up early and have stillness and silence before anyone else wakes up and the day begins. So just really being intentional about every moment, transition time, being aware of like going from one thing to the other, but just like even 10 seconds of just like taking a deep breath, centering, being here, being now. I think that's kind of luckily I love doing this kind of stuff. Like I'm
Mhm.
very creative and I want to turn everything into a practice of resilience and awareness and self-care. So I think that's one of my superpowers is clients that hate self-care or they don't feel like they have the time for it or it stresses them out. I just help walk through their daily lives. And I'm like, okay, this is a great opportunity that we can like make one little tweak and that could be your self care. So just
Mhm.
think creative. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It has to genuinely, authentically make sense for you and support you. But yeah, for me, every element of my day, I try to be intentional and present and check in with myself. And that in itself is very powerful.
Mhm. Yeah. Are there any practices that you think are overrated or underrated?
Curated breathing, breath work, not like the traditional breath work where you have to go and, your hands start tingling and you're totally doing, but just literally using your breath in an intentional way, I think is very underrated. If you feel like you need energy, make your exhale shorter than your inhale. And if you feel like you
Mm.
calm, make your exhale longer than your inhale. That I think is a great practice. Overrated. I want to say like cold plunging and
Oh.
intermittent fasting. I think very extreme things that are hard on the body. I think sometimes those can be very overrated. I love a cold one, like twice a year. But like it's not something that I want to be doing every day. It's also women have to be very mindful with our hormones and our cycles to not be doing extreme intense exercise or temperature exposure or things like that all through our cycles.
Mhm.
Women are more complicated. We're just moody and emotional and hormonal and not from a bad sense whatsoever. But we have to be mindful of that and honor
Mhm.
our hormones and our cycles. And we're not the same. We're not the same version of ourselves every single day. And so we really have to be even more attuned to ourselves. And so that's why those kinds of extreme things I think can be really disruptive. And especially for anyone with a history of an eating disorder, for example, those kinds of harsh, extreme practices can very quickly turn into a disorder. They
Mhm.
becomes this addiction, this dopamine rush, or this sense of power and control or this game that we play with ourselves just to see how far we can push ourselves, and it can turn unhealthy.
Mhm. Since nutrition is a big component for a lot of your clients, what are some of the most nourishing things in terms of nutrition to do? Like you mentioned, not intermittent fasting.
Yeah. Well, I like all my clients to work with a registered dietitian so that they can really have that understanding. I obviously am not a dietitian, so anything
Mhm.
that I recommend is from my own lived experience and it works
Yeah.
from my particular body. So I think it's worth people even doing a session or two just to learn. There's so much to know about what our bodies need, but I think just overall nourishing our bodies. So not having rigid like low carb or no carb or I don't eat this or I only eat that. I think just staying away from extremes in general is a healthy practice and
Mhm.
focusing on nourishment. what is going to nourish my hormones, my body, my cycle, my energy level, what my body needs of me today. And also being mindful not to tip it over into orthorexia either, where you're now afraid to have a cheeseburger for XYZ reasons. So just balance, nourishment, honoring your body's needs, and really figuring out what that means to you specifically.
Yeah. And what is one truth or reminder you want everyone listening to take with them today?
That you are capable and worthy of anything that you desire, anything at all, no matter what you've done, what you've said, where you come from, what limitations you have. We are capable and worthy of so much more than we give ourselves credit for. So really find the people that are going to support you in your evolution and in you creating the life that you want, because it is possible. It is absolutely possible.
I love that. We need that reminder on repeat every day. Truly.
Get that simplified and put it on repeat.
There you go. And where can listeners connect with you, learn from you, and start working with you?
Instagram is a great place to connect with me. That's the platform I'm on the most. Or LinkedIn. Feel free to come say hi. I know that's kind of a different crowd, but I love to educate. I love to be a resource. IlonaVaro.com. You can also, email me there. I will personally respond to every email. I don't have an automated robot, answering my messages. So feel free to reach out, send me a DM. I will do my best to provide a resource or connect you with a therapist, or if we're a good fit to work together. I love supporting women on their journeys to feeling more at home and at peace and resilient. So feel free to reach out.
Amazing. We'll add all of those links in the show notes to connect with you, consider working with you, and be supported beyond all of this incredible insight and wisdom that you shared today. Thank you so much for taking the time. This has been an incredible conversation to just spur so much beyond.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for tuning in to the We Shine Well podcast. If today's conversation lit something up in you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend, leave us a review, and dive deeper each week by subscribing to our Substack in the show notes to interact with guests and discover more resources to expand you. Until next time, keep trusting your right next step and keep shining, my friend.